I'm Stanley Johnson. I've got a great family. I've got a 4-bedroom house and a great community. Like my car? It's new. I even belong to the local golf club. How do I do it? I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. I can barely pay my finance charges. Somebody help me.
The reality is that Mr. Johnson is not alone. When you look at it from a governmental standpoint, we have a tremendous amount of debt. Nationally, over $17 trillion worth of debt. In the state of Pennsylvania, over $100 billion worth of debt. And as average consumer households, we have around $15,000 in credit card debt alone, not counting other debts including student loans and mortgages. The truth is that a lot of people are spending more than they have, and it's a really, really difficult thing to fix. What we're trying to accomplish in this unit is looking at all of these expenses and understanding how it works so that we can avoid having sad, empty pockets later in life with nothing but lint left over. That brings us to this new project here in our content rubric for Project 2C. The essential question is, what does it take to be successful in a market-based economy? When we look at a market-based economy, we're looking at one in which the government is not making decisions for the people, but people get to make decisions on their own as to how they want to use their resources. In specific, really, we're looking at money. How do you use your money, and what choices do you make with that money? This is the full rubric that we have here, and we're going to break it down piece by piece so that you can understand each of the different criteria and also what is expected in the different sections. To start off, what does it take to be successful in a market-based economy? There are 3 different criteria that we want you to focus on. First, gaining employment. Second, understanding expenses. And third, accepting opportunity costs and what you have to give up to make ends meet. So those are the 3 areas we want you to be focusing on in your project, whether it be an essay, a presentation, or some other sort of creative representation. Let's start with gaining employment. For gaining employment, there are 2 areas we want you to be focusing on, and if you look down here, you can see them in this portion of the box. The first is income. For your income, we want you to be using the 25th percentile statistics that you have found from the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. This is provided for you on Blended Schools, and you will be able to use that as you go through the process of completing this project. The reason we've selected the 25th percentile is so that you have a realistic earlier in your career budget that you can look to follow, because you'll be able to budget a little bit more effectively later on in your life. But early on it's difficult as you get used to doing this on your own. Now, that's the first thing we want you to find is your income. From here, we want you to find some positives of the job. Maybe you're saying, hey, the unemployment rates in this job are very low. That's something that's really positive and something that really makes it a desirable job. You may say people really tend to like this job. The job satisfaction rates are extremely high for this job. You may say, I'm very skilled in this job. This is something that I've had a lot of experience with in the past and that I enjoy doing personally. Those are all important ideas and things that you can use to inform us as to why you would choose this job. So that's what we need to have here in this first section under the criteria of gaining employment. In order for you to get full credit, you need to clearly explain both areas of focus, the income and the positives of this job for you. And one other thing to point out here too is the idea of multiple references. So multiple references is essential to getting a 5. If you only have one reference, the maximum score you can earn is a 4. And if you do not clearly connect your answers and your responses to the essential question of what does it take to be successful in a market-based economy, the maximum score you can get is a 3. So make sure you're connecting back to gaining employment is very important to be successful in a market-based economy, because you need to have income in order to be able to spend anything. Next, we have understanding expenses. This is our second criteria that we want to focus on. The 2 areas that we really want you to focus on here are expected and unexpected expenses. 2 examples of each minimum, so 2 and 2 are needed here in order for you to effectively answer this. What might you include for expected expenses? Well, you might want to include and describe how you knew you were going to have to pay for a car, and you knew you were going to have to pay for a house, and you could specifically list the prices that each of them cost, and some references that you might want to use are the ones that would relate to the websites you got your car or your house from. This could be anything though. This could be maybe you say you were expecting to pay taxes. Maybe you say you were expecting to have to pay a lot of money for groceries. Whatever you would like, you can include that in this section. Next, for the unexpected expenses, you might want to talk about student debt. I didn't realize student debt would be so much money. and that's something that I really wasn't accounting for originally in my budget, or I wasn't accounting for saving, and that really added up. And with saving, that's something you may not have accounted for, but there are other things that you're not accounting for, potentially even something like taxes. And the fact that you had to pay a lot of taxes, and maybe you even don't like the fact that you had to pay so many taxes and to where they're going. For instance, when you look at the amount of money that, when it gets broken down on that tax spreadsheet, and to where it goes, it really is surprising how much money goes to certain things that you might not have even accounted for. Specifically, the military as the number one most expensive place that you're spending your money in terms of taxes, and also the interest on federal debt. In other words, the amount of money that's being paid so that we can have our debt. It's basically the money that's benefiting other places who lent us money. So all of these things really fit into this category here. And depending on your personal taste too and what you expected ahead of time, under this expected or unexpected expenses, consider both. Think about what you're most surprised with and include those in there. And again, you need to have a minimum of 2 in each section, and you need to explain them as well. Again, multiple reference are required. Multiple references, are required for a 5 out of 5. One reference means the maximum you can earn is a 4 out of 5. And remember, you have to include this back to the essential question. In other words, explaining what it takes to be successful in a market-based economy. And that would be making sure that you clearly state that you understand the expenses that you have in front of you. And a 0, again, as in the previous one, if you did not clearly answer the question. And finally, the last section is on opportunity cost and accepting opportunity costs. When we look at it overall, what did you give up to make ends meet? That's what this says down here, and that's really what we want you to think about. What did you give up? So did you give up a large house? Let's say maybe you originally said, hey, I want to get this house right here, but then you said, never mind, I can't afford it. I'm going to get one that's a little bit smaller, so I'll go with one that's more in my price range. Did you decide, you know what, I originally wanted to go out to eat all the time, but I realized it was too expensive, so instead I'm going to be buying groceries and eating from home more frequently? What are you giving up in the process as you make that choice? And those are the things that we really want you to be thinking about. You can talk about any of these. However, your minimum that you have to talk about here, and I'll put this down in the criteria, 2 of these in great detail. Provide details about what you originally had and then what you gave up, or what you gave up and what you had in the end as a result of it. And again, the same process follows. Multiple references for a 5 out of 5. One reference deducts you down to a 4 out of 5 potential, and no clear connection to the essential question is going to deduct you to a 3 out of 5 maximum. Make sure we're explaining how accepting opportunity costs is essential to success in a market-based economy. And I'll give you a hint. You might want to connect this back to the idea of, if you don't accept this, it's going to cause you to potentially go into debt because you will spend more than you have, and that is not ideal at all. So hopefully this has been a clear explanation of this content rubric and all of the expectations that we have for you in all 3 criteria, and also how to earn a 5 out of 5 in each section. And most importantly, hopefully will help you with this unit to not end up with sad empty pockets later on in life, but instead to have enough money to do what you would like to do in your life. Not so much that you need to be the wealthiest person in the world, but enough that you can provide for yourself, because really that's a goal that all people should have. Alright? Good luck with this.